Hello everyone. Today's topic is asynchronous data transfer. So before moving to asynchronous data transfer, it is important to know what is the difference between synchronous and asynchronous operations. So synchronous devices are those devices which have a same clock. So single clock is used to maintain the synchronization between different devices. So all these kind of devices are known as synchronous devices. When we talk about asynchronous devices, they don't have a common clock. The clocks are different, all work according to their own clock. Now, in the case of asynchronous, it is a little bit difficult to make the synchronization. Whereas in the synchronous devices, the devices are already in a work in a synchronous fashion. So all have a common clock line which works. Now, what about the data transfer? When we talk about the data transfer between all those devices which share a common clock, then it is a synchronous transfer. When the devices are having separate clocks, then it is a asynchronous data transfer. So I will just give you a small example of synchronous transfer. You can take an example of a register. Now, a single clock is shared between multiple registers, as we did earlier. That if we have a R1 register, we have a R2 register, and the data is shared between R1 and R2, and both of them are sharing a single clock. So this type of transfer will be a synchronous transfer. Whereas in the case of asynchronous transfer, there might be devices which are not sharing a common clock. So it might be two different computers who are getting the data, or any data which is traveling through a network from one device to another, that is considered under asynchronous data transfer. Now, next is, what are the two different type of asynchronous data transfer modes methods? So first of all, we have strobe pulse, and after that we have handshaking. Now, first of all, let us talk about strobe. Now, strobe is a simple way to implement the transfer. Now, in the case of strobe, there is only one thing, that it sends the data, and once the data is sent, we don't get any kind of response from the receiver. Like, we have a sender on this side, we have a receiver on the other side. Data is sent from the sender to the receiver, but receiver doesn't respond to the sender that I have received the data or the data is not received. No such kind of mechanism is there. In the case of strobe, there is a single control message which is transferred from source to the destination, or from sender to the receiver. Whereas in the case of handshaking, we have multiple number of control signals. Now in this, what happens, when a sender sends the data and a receiver receives that data, it sends an acknowledgement that yes, I have received the data which you have sent. So that is a basic difference between strobe and handshaking. So you can just read it. A strobe pulse is supplied by one unit to indicate that the other unit when the data has to occur. Means whenever the data is going to transfer, one control signal will be sent, that's it. After that, the data will be sent and there will be no response from the receiver. Whereas in the case of handshaking, a control signal is accompanied with each data being transmitted, indicating the presence of data. The receiving unit responds another control signal to acknowledge the receipt of data. This is a simple overview of a handshake approach and a strobe approach. In the case of strobe, only single control signal is there. In the case of handshaking, we have multiple control signals. Now, let us do it in a little bit detail. Whether it is strobe, whether it is handshaking, both are having two different type of approaches. It might be started, the strobe might get started from the source node, it might get started from the destination node. Similarly, handshaking might be starting from source node, or it might start from destination node. So we are going to cover up the strobe from both the places, like firstly from source initiated, then a destination initiated. So, so we are going to cover up that part. So let us do it. So what is happening in the first case? Source initiated store for data transfer. Now it's clear from name that in the case of source initiated data transfer, the source is the one which will send the data or which will start the data transfer. So source will be sending the data, and before sending the data we send a strobe signal. Now this strobe signal tells the destination that yes, we are sending the data, and after that we send the data on this data bus. Once the data is received on the destination, it doesn't respond with anything. So there are only two signals. Now what are those two signals? One is a control signal, which is a strobe signal, and other is data. That's it. Only one control signal is there. Now in this slide you can see this is the data is already flowing. Whenever the strobe signal is 1 at that time, this it means that the data which is sent over the bus is a valid data. So simply what happens in this is data gets transferred from source to destination, and whenever the strobe signal is enabled, it means the data which is flowing over the bus is a valid data. That is the meaning of this strobe message which we sent. Now in the next case, the second type, that is a destination initiated strobe. Now if you see in this case, both the signals were flowing from source to the destination. Okay? Whether it is strobe, whether it is data, both were flowing from source to the destination. So it was source initiated data transfer. Next is destination initiated data transfer. So this is source, this is destination. Now in destination initiated strobe, firstly destination will send the strobe message to the source that yes, I'm ready to accept the data. Once it is done, then the data will be transferred from the source. So this is data and this is strobe. The only difference between source initiated and destination initiated type of strobe is in the case of source initiated, strobe is sent from the source, and in the destination initiated, strobe message is sent from the destination. That's it. That is the only difference between source initiated strobe and destination initiated strobe. So we please remember this thing. We have a single control signal which travels when we are going to send the data. Okay. So it can be activated from source, it can be activated from destination. The next thing is handshaking. Now, what is the problem? Why we need to develop the handshaking approach? There might be a problem in this type of a transfer. Assume source has sent the data, but the data which was traveling now that is lost in between. There might be a connection loss. This device might get turned off, like there is a power failure or something like that. So if there is any problem in when we are sending the data, our source will never be aware about it. Source will never come to know what has happened. Source, according to this concept, source will send the data and then it is free. It doesn't know whether the data was received or not. So it don't bother about that. It is something similar to, you might have done this in networking classes as well. So it is something similar to UDP, user datagram protocol, in which once the data is sent, it is not having any problem whether the data was received or not. It will not bother about it. But in the case of handshaking, when we are talking about handshake, the second approach which we have, our sender will receive a acknowledgement. and that acknowledgement will make sure that yes, the data is received on the other end. So sometimes what happens, you send the data and it is not received on the other end, then you have no response from the destination in the case of stroke. But in the case of handshake, you will get a response. So it will make your data transfers more reliable. In handshaking as well, we have both the methods. We have destination initiated handshake and we have source initiated handshake. So what was the problem in strobe? So this is in the source initiated strobe. What is the problem? The source unit that initiates the transfer has no way of knowing whether the destination has actually received the data or not. In the destination initiated strobe, the problem was the destination unit that initiates the transfer has no way whether the source has actually placed the data on the bus or not. So these are the two problems which were solved with the help of handshake. Handshake has a new method which is a new control signal which is a acknowledgement. Now let us talk about that. So please remember this. In block diagram we have a source unit, we have a destination unit. Earlier we were having only two lines. One was data valid line and strobe. Now we are having three lines. First one is data, second is data valid, and the third one which we have, that is data accepted. Now this data accepted line is a acknowledgement signal. This is a acknowledgement signal, and this is a source initiated input output. Source initiated handshake. Now, why it is known as source initiated handshaking, we will talk about that as well. Now, let us see how it works. First of all, the data is placed on bus. That is the first thing which happens at this place. So, first of all, data is placed. Once the data is placed, along with it, the data valid line is enabled. So, source has sent the data whenever it puts the data on the bus. Along with it, it enables the data valid signal. Once this data valid signal is enabled and this data which we are sending is received on the other end, it's at the same time it initiates a data accepted signal that yes, the data which you have sent is received by us. After that, once the data transfer is complete, data valid signal will be disabled, and once the data valid signal is disabled, then after that data accepted signal will be automatically disabled. So this part, when it is moving from 0 to 1, is known as enabling a signal, and when it is moving from 1 to 0, it is disabling the signal. So first of all, data bus, we have enabled the data valid, means we have sent the data. Once it is sent, after that data valid signal will be enabled. After the data valid signal is enabled, when the destination unit gets the data, it enables the data accepted line. So that is why this data accepted line is from destination to the source. So this line is enabled when destination unit receives the data correctly. So once it is enabled, then after that, when the transfer is over, data valid signal will be disabled, and along with it data accepted signal will be disabled. So this representation is also done in the sequence of events. You can check that. So first of all, what is the first task? This is a source unit, which is this one. This is a destination unit here. First task is to place the data on the bus and enable data valid signal. So firstly, place the data on this bus which is above, and there is nothing mentioned here, but there will be a data bus at this place. You can edit your slides. So data valid signal will be here. Data valid signal is here. So place the data on the bus and enable the data valid signal. Once it is done, destination unit will accept the data, and once it has accepted the data, it will enable the data accepted line. So data accepted line is this one. Then once the data is over, once the transfer is over, then disable the data valid signal and invalidate the data on bus. Means once this data valid signal is disabled, it means the data which we have on the bus is no longer valid. So data valid signal just tells the destination that the data which it is receiving on the bus is a valid data. Once the data is disabled, then the destination will also disable the data accepted signal which is done at this place, and again it will return to the initial state. So this approach allows a small delays from one state to the next state, like there are small differences between this value and there is small delay between this, so it allows that delay. Then after that it permits each unit to respond in its own data transfer rate. Now what does it mean? Source is having a separate clock, destination is having its own separate clock, and both can respond according to that clock which they are having. So it will allow a slight delay in it. So don't it is not as in a synchronized fashion. Now let us move to the next topic, that is destination initiated slow. Now destination initiated handshaking. Now in this case, these two lines are remaining same, data is same because data has to be sent from source to the destination. Data valid signal is to be enabled by source and it has to reach to the destination. But this data accepted signal which we have in the last case is now changed to ready for data. Now this is not a data accepted signal, this is a ready for data signal. Now, what does it mean? In the case of ready for data, first of all, the first thing which we are going to receive will be the ready for data signal. Now, how it is going to happen? Firstly, the data will be sent on the bus, and then the rest of the things are going to happen. Now, let us do it from this place. First of all, what happens? We have ready for the data signal which we have received at this place. Now you can see this, there is a slight change in these values. So ready for data signal is at the top right now. So first of all we receive the ready for data signal, and once we receive the ready for data signal we enables the data valid. We send the data and along with it we also enable the data valid signal. So both the things are done at the same time, but there is a slight delay in this. So there is a slight delay. So after this, once the ready for data signal is disabled, like at this place, then data valid signal is also disabled. So this is how a destination initiated transfer using a handshake happens. Now in this case, what happens? The data is sent from the means destination is calling for the data, that yes I need some data, so please send it. So that is what request the destination is making to a source, that I am ready to accept the data, please send me the data. So first of all, once the ready for data signal is received by the source, then it sends the data. So in this we have a sequence of events, you can check that. So first of all, now the first step is not done from the source side, it is done from the destination end. So what does destination says? Like this is the time, this is above this, it means this is the first step. So it is ready to accept the data and it enables the ready for data signal. Now once it is reaching to the source, it will place the data on the bus and enable the data valid signal, which is done at this place. This is enabling the data valid signal and this is enabling the data. So it has done both the tasks. After that, once the data from the bus is accepted and its data transfer is done, it will disable the ready for data signal. This signal which we have is disabled at this place. Now it is disabled. Once this is disabled, then the source will also disable this data valid line. So that is what source is doing. Disable the data valid or invalidate the data on bus. So this is what it is doing. Now, handshaking provides a high flexibility and reliability because successful completion of data transfer relies active participation of both the units. Now, both units are going to participate in the transfer. Both will be aware whether the data was sent properly or not. Both are aware, is my data sent, which is sent from me, is actually accepted by the other one or not. So they are already aware about it. And if there is any fault, there is a implementation uh, of a timer which we call it as timeout mechanism. So there is a timeout mechanism which is used to simply tell the source that the data has failed. Like if for a certain period of time the source doesn't receive the ready for data signal, it means the destination is not requiring the data. Then if the destination is not receiving the data valid signal or the data on the bus, so it automatically comes to know that there is some problem on the source. So we have a timeout mechanism implemented in the system so that we are able to transfer the data at a correct speed and the data reaches to the other unit successfully. So this is what benefit we have in handshaking as compared to the Strobe. Strobe was not having any kind of mechanism to identify whether the data was received properly or not. But in the case of handshaking, we have all the data that whether the data was received properly or not. Next topic which we have is asynchronous serial transfer. Now, asynchronous, you are aware that when the devices are using separate clocks, it is a asynchronous type of data transfer. Now, serial transfer is on a single wire we are going to send the data. So that is a serial transfer. Now, if there is a asynchronous data, it means there are different devices which are using different clocks and we are having a single wire to send the data. So that is what asynchronous serial transfer is. This is destination, this is source. Now, in this case which we are using, so there are different ways to send the data, but what we are considering right now is asynchronous serial transfer. That is the only example which we are going to do right now. So how this data is sent? So there are certain special bits which we use. Now what are those special bits? It is low high. Now what does it mean? If the value is 1 for a particular line, it means there is no data sent. Whenever the line becomes 0, it means it is the start of the data sending. So there are certain bits which are assigned, means it is low high, mean low functioning, high functioning, sorry. When it is high, it means no transfer is happening. When it is low, it means we are going to start a transfer. So let us just discuss about it, how it is done. So we have special bits which are inserted on both the ends of the character code. Now this is a 8 bit of data, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. This is a 8 bit of data, and this is, or you can say 8 bit, or you can say 1 byte. So it is 1 byte of data which will be sent in one go, and after sending this data we will be having a stop bit. So in that 1 byte of data, like if I give an example, this is the data. So Along with this data, we add some start bits at this place, and we add some stop bits. So this is a stop bits, and we have some start bits which tell our destination that from here the actual data transfer starts, and at this place the data transfer is ending. So this is how we are going to send the data. This is the actual data. This is the actual data. These are the start bits, and these are the stop bits. So we have different starting bits, stopping bits, and we have the actual data. Now, what are the start bits? What are the stop bits? How the destination comes to know that whether it has to start the data transfer or it has to stop the data transfer? So for that we have different rules which are predefined. So what are those rules? So we will study one by one. Now, when the data is not sent, this is the first rule. When the data is not sent, the value of the data, the state will be 1. Like if it is high, high means when the state of this link is high, it means there is no data. It is active low. It is active low. Then once the initiation of the character transmission is detected by a start bit, which is always 0. So what does it mean? It means that first rule says if high, that means no data. This is the first rule. Second rule says whenever we are going to start a value, the start bit will be equal to 0. So initiation of a character transmission is detected by a start bit which is always a 0. So it is a 0 bit. Then the third rule says the character bits always follow a start bit. So which means the actual data will always follow the start bit. Firstly, the start bit will be sent. If this is start bit, after the start bit, the actual data will be sent. So this is the third rule. After this, we have the fourth rule. Once the last bit of the data is sent, we will send a stop bit. So at the end, we will be having a stop bit. And what will be that stop bit? It will be 1, or it can be multiple number of ones. There can be number of values. When that value touches 1, it means there is no data sent. And there is one more important rule in this. The receiver already knows that the transfer rate of the bits and number of information bits to be expected. Now, this is important. Otherwise, our source and destination will not be able to synchronize. So, source and destination should already be aware that okay, 1 byte of data is to be sent. So it means once it detects the start bit, now let us use this information which we have done. Now, once the start bit is detected by the destination already know that I have to accept 8 more bits. It already knows that I have to accept 8 more bits, and after those 8 bits, the next value is my stop bit, and that stop bit will be definitely 1. Start bit is 0, and stop bit is 1, or number of ones. It might be possible. Our destination is already aware about it, that how many bits it has to accept. Now, you might be having a question in your mind that if these values are 1, then how it will detect? Simply, as we know, after a start bit, there will be 8 number of bits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the last bit, then this is the stop bit. Now if again we are going to transfer a new value, then again we will need to have a start bit. And what is the start bit? 0. After 0, again it will start counting for 8 values. So this is how the data transfer will happen. So let me just make it in this place and show you how the transfer will happen. So first of all, the values are going to remain at 1. Then this is 0. So this is assumed to be a starting value. It might be like this, any data. After 8 bits, now this is 1, 1, 1, 1. Again a 0. Then now this is the way how they are sending the data. No, this is a very huge sequence of bits. But if we try to understand and we try to look into it, that how the data and how many bits of data are sent, so it is very easy to identify. How? First of all, this means all are ones, there is no data. This is the first start bit, S1, which I'm just assuming this is the start bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 bits. Okay, so these are 8 bits which are done. This is the data. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bits. Okay, so this is the data. There has to be value. Okay, so these are the 8 bits. This is the data. Then this one value is a stop bit. Then this 0 is a start bit. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Again, 8 bits are there. Simply, if it is 1, then we can accept this is a stop bit. This is again a start bit. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So after 8, we can start in the same way. So this is how you can decode it, how it is going to work. So after some values, if there is 0, we are going to count 8 bits, and then we are having a stop bit. Then after that, if there is a 0, it is a starting bit. After the start, there will be 8 bits transferred again, then a stop bit. Then again there might be multiple number of ones, so which are telling you that they are there is no data transfer. Whenever it becomes 0, then again it is starting a transfer, and just count 8 bits to the next. So this is how we come to know that what amount of data transfer is happening. So this is a asynchronous serial transfer. So I just wrote a very large value. If you want, you can simplify it a little bit, like 11110. In this case, again we can start from this is a no, this is not a data, this is no data, this is just a symbol that it is not going to start anything. This is a start bit. After this we have 8 bits to be transferred. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. Up to here we have the data, and these all are the stop bits. Then this is again a start bit. From here till here we have a data, and after this these are the stop bits. This is how you can identify how much data is transferred. Now after this we have UART. This is similar to what we have already done in your interface. It is the same concept, so I will just let you know about it. So what is it? In UART, now this is universal asynchronous receiver and transmitter. So this one circuit can be used to transmit the data, or it can be used to receive the data. So now if you check this, what we are having, chip select is same. Now we have one more value in this. If you check the last value, so we were having CS chip select, and we were having two register select, RS0 and RS1. Now in this case we are having a single RS because we are only having two type of registers. One is receiver and one is transmitter. So bus buffer is doing the same task. It is going to store the data temporarily. Then after this we have chip select, that is used to make this work or stop. So that is a chip select. RS is for register select, input output read operation, input output write operation. Then we have, earlier we were having port A, port B. Now we are having transmitter and receiver register. So this is a transmitter register which will be sending the data from CPU to the device. Then we have a receiver register whose task is to receive the data from device to the CPU. Then after this we have two other registers which are control register and status register. Again, control register can be programmed, so you can make it work according to your requirement with the help of control register, and it will also control the different devices which we have. Status register is to get the status of devices, what type of status they are having. So CPU never sends the status to the devices, but devices do send the status to CPU. Then after this we have used a shift register. Now what is this shift register? Its task is to, if it is receiving a parallel data, then it will transfer it to a serial manner, and then it will transfer the data. Whereas we are having another shift register whose task is to receive the data from the devices and then convert it into into a parallel fashion and send it to the CPU. Because you are already aware about it, when we talk about the data transfers, when your system is interacting with the outer devices, it works in a serial fashion, and when it transfers the data inside its own registers, then it is a parallel transfer. So here is one application of your bidirectional shift register which we have done in your starting. So this is where we can use that shift registers. So bidirectional shift registers are used at this place to transfer the data from the register to the device or from device to the CPU. Then the functioning is going to remain same. For chip select 0, RS is 0, it is not going to work. Whatsoever value we have for RS, it is not going to work. If chip select is 1, then only it will work. If the register select is 0 and operation is write, means this value is 1, this value is 0 and this value is 1. So where we can write, there are two places to write. First one is a transmitter register and second one is a control register. So you can see this, there are only two devices where we can write the data, other two are to read the data because there is only a single sided connection. So to write the data, we are only having two registers. One is a transmitter register, another is a control register. So if the value of RS is 0 and there is a write operation, so it can be done on these two. So for 0, write is done on transmitter register, and if the value of RS is 1, then the write function is working on control register. Then similar for R2, similar for read. If the read operation is enabled, then RS is going to do the same task. If it is 0, then status register, receiver register will be used. If it is 1, the status register can be used. Now at this place they are showing it opposite, so you can just change their location as per your requirement. Then we also have the transmitter clock and receiver clock. It is just to maintain the synchronization between the devices. Now let us talk about the transmitter register. What is it? How it works? It accepts the data from CPU through a data bus and transfer to a shift register for serial transmission. Then the it receives the serial information into another shift register, which is here. Which is here receiver register, and complete data byte is sent to the receiver register. So it receives the data, it collects it, and then it sends to the next. Then we have status register, which will tell you what type of errors are there. If there is any problem, then it will store that error in this status register. Then we have a control register. It defines the baud rate, means at what speed it will be working, how it is going to start the transfer. You can simply program all these things. You can change the baud rate, you can change the different values which we have. Now next is, what is a baud rate? It is rate at which the bits are getting transferred. So you can just check that. After this, the next topic which we have, that is modes of transfer. So we have briefly discussed about them in your chapter number 5. So we will do the complete explanation of it in this class, in this unit. So, but we will do it in the next class. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone. We will start with that topic in the next class.